step into the brutal world of the Vietcong, where loyalty was forged in blood and fear. Dare to witness the savage punishments that even the fiercest warriors dreaded. Watch till the end if you dare.
Murphy! Murphy! Murphy, man. Murphy.
The battlefield of discipline. The battlefield of discipline was not just a place where bullets flew and armies clashed. It was a harsh world where strict rules and fear of punishment ruled every moment. In this brutal arena, every soldier was expected to obey orders without question, and even a small mistake could lead to severe consequences. Here, the rules were simple and clear. Loyalty was life, and disobedience was a fast track to pain. Imagine a battlefield where discipline was as important as firepower. In this unforgiving environment, the Vietcong soldiers had to follow a strict code of conduct. The moment a rule was broken, the punishment was swift and merciless. This was not just a battle against the enemy outside, it was also a battle against the human nature inside, where weakness or hesitation could cost you everything. Every day was a test of strength and will, and the harsh discipline was the only way to keep everyone in line. The need for discipline came from the very heart of the war. In the chaos of battle, there was no time for second chances. Every soldier had a role to play, and any sign of disobedience could jeopardize not only the mission, but also the lives of fellow fighters. The strict rules were designed to create a unified force, one that could move as one body, striking hard and fast against the enemy. But the price for that unity was steep, a life filled with constant fear of punishment if one failed to meet the expectations. The system of discipline was built on the belief that absolute obedience was the only path to victory. The leaders of the Vietcong knew that in order to win the war, they had to instill a deep sense of loyalty and readiness in their soldiers. It did not matter how brave or experienced a fighter was, even the top soldiers were not immune to the severe consequences of breaking a rule. The code was the same for everyone, and the rules were enforced without mercy. In this way, the battlefield of discipline became a place where the harshest methods were used to maintain order. Every soldier learned quickly that a moment of hesitation or a single act of disobedience could lead to brutal punishment. These punishments were not just physical, they also attacked the spirit. The fear of being singled out and punished created an environment where everyone watched their actions closely. It was a constant reminder that in this war, even the smallest misstep could have dire results. This intense focus on discipline helped to build a force that was strong in its resolve, but it also meant that the soldiers lived in a state of perpetual tension and fear. This world of unyielding discipline was marked by both its necessity and its cruelty. The strict rules were there to keep the soldiers safe and to ensure that every action counted in the battle against a common enemy. Yet, the same rules also led to an atmosphere of fear, where the cost of failure was always present in the back of the mind. In this place, every order was followed to the letter because the alternative was unthinkable. The battlefield of discipline was a place where every moment was charged with the possibility of punishment, and where the drive to survive made the harsh rules all too real. This fierce environment reminds us that war is not only fought on the front lines, but also in the hearts and minds of those who serve. The lessons of the battlefield of discipline show us that while strict rules can forge a powerful force, they also create a heavy burden that soldiers must carry every day. The Iron Code of Command. The Iron Code of Command wasn't just a set of orders, it was the very foundation of how the Vietcong kept their ranks united and battle-ready every single day. In this system, every soldier, no matter how experienced or brave, was expected to follow orders without question. The idea was simple. One mistake could break the chain that held the entire unit together, so everyone had to be as strict with themselves as the leaders were with them. Imagine a situation where every command felt like it came straight from a powerful force that left no room for hesitation. That's exactly what the Iron Code of Command meant for these fighters. When an order was given, it was like a law. There was no time for discussion or second guessing, because in the midst of chaos, any delay could be deadly. This harsh way of operating ensured that every person in the unit moved as one, quickly, efficiently, and without error. At the core of this iron rule was the belief that unity was the only path to victory. In a war where every second counted, the soldiers learned that personal feelings or disagreements had to be set aside. The focus was solely on the mission. Each soldier understood that even the smallest act of defiance could put not only their own life at risk, but also the lives of their comrades. That's why the system did not allow any exceptions. Whether you were a seasoned veteran or a new recruit, the rule was the same: obey without question or face severe consequences. This strict code of conduct worked by making sure that every single action was in line with the goals of the unit. The leaders enforced this rule with an unyielding hand, making it clear that there would be no special treatment for anyone. A high-ranking officer was just as vulnerable to punishment as any other fighter if they did not follow an order exactly as given. The idea was to remove any sense of individualism that might slow down or disrupt the group. Every soldier was seen as a part of a larger, unstoppable machine, where every part had to work perfectly for the machine to function. Because of this, the fear of punishment was a constant presence. This wasn't fear used to scare someone off. It was a tool to keep everyone focused and alert. The soldiers were always aware that one small mistake could lead to a punishment that would be both physically and emotionally damaging. This created an environment where each action was taken with extreme care. Over time, this strict discipline helped build a strong bond among the fighters. They knew that each person's commitment was critical, and that everyone was in the same tough situation. This shared burden, although harsh, also fostered a sense of unity and trust within the group. The Iron Code of Command also meant that the idea of personal comfort was completely set aside. In this system, personal opinions, desires, or even doubts were seen as weaknesses that could cost lives. The focus was on the group and the mission. Every fighter was trained to think of the unit first, knowing that their actions could have far-reaching consequences. It wasn't just about following orders. It was about creating a mindset where every soldier was aware that their behavior had a direct impact on everyone around them. Unmasking the brutal punishments. The savage reality. In the dark and dangerous world of the Vietcong, strict rules and harsh punishments were not just a way to control soldiers. They were a brutal tool to create fear and obedience. The punishments meted out to those who broke the rules were ruthless and shocking, leaving deep marks on both the body and the mind. In this section, we dive into the savage reality of these punishments and uncover the true cost of disobedience. Imagine being part of a group where every mistake, no matter how small, could lead to a punishment so fierce it would make even the bravest tremble. This was the reality for Vietcong fighters. The punishment was not just a response to an error, it was a clear message. There is no room for failure. The Vietcong leaders used these brutal measures as a way to remind everyone that the price of disobedience was extremely high. When a soldier broke the rules, the punishment was swift and shocking. It often began with a public display, a harsh reminder to all that the rules were not just suggestions, but strict laws. The punishment was meant to be seen by everyone, so that the fear of similar retribution would keep the whole group in line. This public shaming served as a tool to spread terror and maintain absolute order. The methods used in these punishments were varied and cruel. Some soldiers experienced physical pain through methods like severe beatings, which left lasting scars. Others were subjected to torture techniques designed to break their spirit. These acts were carried out in full view of their comrades, so that the lesson was imprinted in every mind. The harsh physical treatment was accompanied by psychological torment. Soldiers were often isolated or humiliated, making them feel utterly abandoned and desperate. The purpose behind these severe actions was clear: to build an unbreakable unit where every individual knew that disobedience would not be tolerated. The leaders believed that by using fear as a weapon, they could force every soldier to give their best in every moment. The punishment was not just for the offender, it was a warning to everyone else. It was a way to ensure that no one even thought of questioning orders, because the memory of these punishments was always fresh in their minds. Yet the impact of these brutal punishments went far beyond the immediate pain. They seeped into every aspect of a soldier's life. Living with the constant threat of such severe retribution created a heavy burden, and each decision was made under the shadow of fear. This fear could turn a brave warrior into a cautious one, always second-guessing every move to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Even the strongest among them found it hard to shake off the feeling that any wrong step could be their last. At the same time, this system of punishment was designed to serve a greater purpose. The Vietcong were fighting a war on many fronts, against an enemy on the battlefield, and against any hint of internal weakness. In such a dangerous environment, the harsh methods were seen as a necessary evil. Every punishment was a reminder that there was no safe space in this brutal fight, and that every moment was a battle against not only the enemy, but also one's own fears. This dark practice also left behind a legacy of trauma. The memories of the brutal punishments were passed down from one soldier to the next, creating a culture where fear and strict discipline were the norm. This legacy of pain made the soldiers stronger in one way. They learned to act quickly and without hesitation. But it also made them vulnerable, as the constant stress and fear took a toll on their spirits. They were forced to suppress their natural feelings and emotions in order to survive, leading to a deep internal battle that lasted long after the war ended. Mind games of fear. The tools of psychological warfare. Psychological warfare is about using the mind to control behavior and create fear. For the Viet Cong, it was not enough to punish physical actions. The leaders also knew that breaking a soldier's spirit could force them to obey without hesitation. Every method they used was designed to send a clear message: disobedience comes with a high price. This approach helped keep the soldiers focused and ready to act at any moment. Imagine being in a place where every mistake, even a small one, could lead to a punishment that scars you both in body and mind. The Viet Cong leaders understood that fear could be a powerful tool. They used harsh words, public shaming, and isolation to remind everyone that no one was above the rules. When a soldier saw a comrade suffer a severe punishment, it became a strong lesson for everyone: follow orders or face the same fate. This constant threat made sure that every soldier thought twice before acting out of line. One common tactic was to make punishments very public. When a rule was broken, the punishment was often carried out in front of the entire unit. This wasn't just to hurt the person who broke the rules, it was meant to send a message to everyone else. Every soldier watching would see the pain and know that a similar punishment could be their destiny if they ever faltered. This public display of discipline helped build a culture where fear was always present. It was like a dark shadow over every decision they made. The Viet Cong also used harsh, simple language that left no room for doubt. Orders were given in a direct manner, with clear instructions and no explanation. This language was designed to be absolute. There was no space for personal thought or discussion. The direct words became a part of the soldiers' daily life, imprinting in their minds that questioning orders was not allowed. This type of communication made the rules seem unchangeable and absolute. Another powerful tool was isolation. Soldiers who showed any sign of disobedience or hesitation were sometimes cut off from the rest of the group. Humans are social by nature, and being left alone can be as painful as any physical injury. Isolation made soldiers feel abandoned and unwanted, and that fear of loneliness was used as a strong motivator for everyone to stick to the rules. No one wanted to be the one left out, so they made sure to follow orders carefully. Psychological warfare also involved the use of threats and warnings. The leaders would often remind the soldiers that a single mistake could lead to a punishment so severe that it would change their lives forever. These constant reminders were not just warnings. They were a way to keep the fear alive in every soldier's mind. The fear of an unknown yet horrifying consequence was enough to keep everyone in line. Every decision was made with the thought that the next moment could be the one that brought punishment. Over time, these tools of psychological warfare had a deep and lasting effect on the soldiers. The fear and anxiety built up inside them became a constant companion, even during moments of rest. This never-ending tension forced the soldiers to always think about the consequences of their actions. While this helped to create a very disciplined force, it also meant that the mental and emotional toll on the soldiers was enormous. They learned to hide their true feelings and bury their doubts, focusing only on obeying the orders. In this harsh environment, the mind became both the battleground and the prize. The Vietcong leaders knew that by breaking the spirit of a soldier, they could control them more easily than by just inflicting physical pain. This method of control made the soldiers more predictable and ensured that they acted as a single, united force. The price of disobedience was always at the forefront of their minds, which made them more willing to sacrifice personal comfort for the sake of the group. The ripple effect of terror, lasting impacts on morale, loyalty, and the war. The brutal punishments and strict discipline in the Vietcong ranks did more than control actions in the moment. They left deep and lasting marks that rippled through every part of the force. When terror was used as a tool to enforce rules, its effects went far beyond the immediate punishment. This constant state of fear created an atmosphere that affected how soldiers felt, acted, and even thought about the war long after each incident. Imagine being in a group where every day, the threat of harsh punishment was a shadow you could never shake off. This constant fear made every soldier walk on eggshells. They knew that one mistake could lead to not only physical pain, but also deep emotional scars. The repeated use of terror forced them to develop a mindset that was both cautious and deeply anxious. Even when the battles were over, the memories of punishment and the fear of repeating them lingered, affecting their ability to relax or trust completely in their comrades. Morale was hit hard by this environment of terror. Instead of building confidence and unity through shared victories and support, the Vietcong soldiers were often left feeling isolated and unsure of themselves. Every harsh punishment served as a reminder that no matter how hard one tried, failure was never an option. This constant reminder not only crushed any spark of individual bravery, but also made the soldiers feel that they were always under a microscope, where every move was critically watched and judged. Over time, this led to a sense of hopelessness and fatigue that could weaken the fighting spirit. Loyalty within the ranks was also a double-edged sword in this culture of terror. On one hand, the strict enforcement of rules and the fear of punishment helped to create a force that was highly disciplined and seemingly united. Soldiers knew that everyone was subject to the same harsh rules, which in theory fostered a sense of equality and shared burden. However, the constant fear of being singled out or punished harshly also bred distrust among the soldiers. Many began to worry not just about the enemy outside, but also about the possibility of their own comrades reporting any sign of weakness or disobedience. This made true camaraderie hard to build, as the ever-present fear of betrayal and harsh consequences overshadowed any bonds of trust. The overall dynamics of the war were influenced by these lasting effects as well. The culture of terror meant that the Vietcong forces were always operating under extreme stress. Every decision was made with the constant reminder of the severe consequences for any misstep. This pressure could sometimes lead to rapid and precise actions, as soldiers were forced to act quickly and decisively out of fear. However, it also meant that creativity, initiative, and the willingness to take calculated risks were stifled. In many ways, the rigid system of punishment and fear prevented soldiers from adapting to changing circumstances on the battlefield, which could sometimes be a disadvantage in a war that required flexibility and quick thinking. On a personal level, the ripple effect of terror changed how soldiers saw themselves and their future. Many began to internalize the harsh messages of their superiors, believing that their worth was tied solely to their ability to avoid punishment and follow orders without question. This mindset could make them effective in the short term, but left deep emotional wounds that were hard to heal. The scars of fear and punishment did not disappear when the battle ended. They carried over into civilian life, affecting relationships, trust, and the ability to move on from the trauma of war. We've exposed the harsh reality behind the Vietcong's brutal discipline and the lasting scars it left on their warriors. Every punishment and every moment of fear echoed through the war, reshaping lives forever. If you found this dive into dark history as gripping as we did, hit that like button and subscribe. Join us next time for more untold stories from the past.